Welcome to the Limelight podcast, where authors, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders step forward to share their ideas, stories, and strategies. I'm Clarissa Burt, inviting you into thoughtful dialogue, refined insight, and an esteemed way of living. Hey everybody, it's Clarissa Burt here, and we are back in the Limelight, and we are with Detria Austin Everson. Did I say that right? Detria, excuse me. I got to get these glasses fixed. That little, it's Detria, excuse me. Okay, Detria, lovely to have you on the show. This is what we're going to be talking about today, everybody. This is her book, Serving is a Superpower. And I wanted to start out with something that I found at the very beginning of the book. And if I could find it again, that would be really great.
Okay.
And it seems as though a lot of the work that you have done toward this end of serving started out with your mom.
Oh, my goodness.
And in your dedication in the book, you talk about your loving memory of Margaret Eleanor Austin, who was your mom. She's God's living example of service in my life. Now, I won't read the whole thing because it's rather long, but what a beautiful dedication. And not only, you've lost her recently. I think it's only about 7 months, isn't it?
Absolutely. You're right.
Girlfriend, I am so sorry for your loss. Can we start with Mom a minute? Do you mind?
I appreciate that. No, and thank you very much, because really, from my beginning, she was there clearly. And everything that she's actually demonstrated throughout my life, she was a social worker, which a lot of people may or may not know. And so that alone was a career of serving vulnerable children in need. And so one of the things I love about her most is that example did not just extend to her work environment.
Yeah.
She demonstrated that as a person with her friends, her family, and everyone else around. So thank you for starting.
Oh, no. Well, listen, I'm sure Mom is thanking you for the dedication, number one. And number two, I love it when you say I was raised wrapped in love, encouragement, and unwavering support. Never once left wondering if I mattered.
Yes.
Boom. I wrote a book about self-esteem. And when I hear somebody say that, I know that they were raised right.
Yeah.
And so few that I've ever spoken to have ever said anything similar.
Wow.
So good on you and good on Mom and the work that you're doing. So let's get into, why don't you tell me about, go ahead, you go, you tell me, and then I'll ask you some questions. Tell me about your work. Tell me about what inspires you. Tell me about what keeps you motivated. And I'll ask you that question later. You go ahead first.
Sure. I appreciate that, Clarissa. And one, thank you so much for having me on to share the book and my journey. I am inspired every day because I see people working diligently to move forward in life. And it always excites me to see that people have not lost that hope and that energy and that zest for becoming more than what they may be at the moment. And one of the things that I've enjoyed most is, in some cases, being alongside individuals who are aspiring and being a part of that journey with them, providing some level of service, whether that's encouragement, support, a kind word, or anything else that matters, so to speak. And so I really, really appreciate you for.
I always call that a win-win.
It is. It absolutely is a win-win. That is correct.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. What does it actually take to, because I know you do a lot of work, and I want you to talk more about the work that you're doing. But what does it actually take to build the culture where people want to show up and give their best?
Well, I will tell you what it takes for me personally to be that person. And it takes a lot of intentional preparation. I endeavor to make sure I start my day out in the mornings with a good moment of quiet, whether that's meditation or prayer or music. One of my go-to things that I help to get my spirit and my energy right for the day. And it takes really wanting to leave people in situations better than when you found them. And I find that if you do that, you can repeat this process on a regular basis. But I also want people to know it doesn't take a lot. I don't want them to think service is heavy or weighty or something that burdens you down. In many cases, it's very simple. It can be as easy as a smile for someone that's passing your way. It can be a gentle word of encouragement. It can be a phone call to someone to say you're thinking of them. I don't want it to be something people feel like it's a big lift, so to speak. So it takes me to be intentional, and I hope that that's what people get from this.
I'm kind of wondering what kind of music you listen to.
Well,
because I go to lounge and chill. That's kind of where I
have a wide playlist, but if I'm really focusing on, my service mentality, then I am absolutely listening to, a little bit of whatever's on my worship channel. And there's so many artists that I enjoy,
Yeah.
songs that resonate with my
Any
spirit.
favorites?
That Yes, I've got CC Winans at the top of the list, and I've got Blessing Offer as another one, and then my last was Lauren Daigle. So those are some of my go-tos.
Why is servant leadership the missing piece that most organizations overlook?
Well, I think a lot of times we think mostly about the bottom line or the
Yeah.
stats and the
Yes.
numbers. And I think if we actually started thinking not just about those things, which are quite important for your leaders and your board of directors and investors if you have them, but I do believe if we really center our thoughts around serving others, primarily for leaders, serving the staff and the team that report to you first and foremost, you tend to get more out of them. And it doesn't become something that's more of a directive. It becomes a collective process where everyone is trying to give their best. People do not follow titles, they follow individuals. And if that individual is someone that's a servant leader, then they can get people to move mountains for them.
Yeah. At what point does someone, much like yourself, consider themselves a servant leader so that they are comfortable with putting it in their bio? Yes, I am a servant leader.
I think it comes after proven tenure being such a leader. It would be
Okay.
very disingenuous to put that out there if you don't have
Yeah.
people who have told you that over your career
Yeah.
or experiences that you have that you can reflect back on where you have been shared a story about how your leadership mattered to someone else. You earn that through other people's accolades or their comments to you. It's not something you self-proclaim, and we should not. And
Right.
I am very, very fortunate to have been in situations where the example my mother and my father set for me, I emulated that in my work environments, in
Right.
my leadership roles, and it has returned to me in multiple ways with people moving from one organization to work with me at another one, by
Yeah.
people telling me personal stories about how I influenced and supported their lives and things of that nature. So I think it is not something you take as a title or crown you place on yourself, but it is one that I wear with great gratitude and appreciation from those who have bestowed it upon me.
I would absolutely say so. Yeah. What do you say to leaders who believe that service and high performance are in tension with each other? Interesting.
Well, I don't find that there's tension. One thing, most people want to do a job that they're proud of. They want to be able to have the tools and resources in which to do that job. And once they're provided such, they want an environment that allows them to show off their best talents and to move ahead. And I do not believe that service and performance are at odds at all or in any way in tension. I believe that one actually can, spark the other or more so. You have a team of people who are all driven by a common goal of serving and doing something that makes them feel good inside.
Right.
It drives them a little bit differently than saying, we want to hit this goal so we can beat the company next door. That's a little different, motivation standpoint. And I think most of us who found that we drive our teams by the service part of what we do, we've seen far better outcomes than the performance that we drive for metrics.
Right. So I'm going to assume, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but just to hear it from you, service, when we hear service, we usually think about faith-based, church-based, and the like. But there are so many organizations and corporate and all kinds of things that have created departments, if you will, or maybe there's a better word for that, where they too are giving back to communities and serving. Do you work with the corporations as well?
Well, actually, a lot of times I'm starting to more so in the role now that I'm a speaker, author, and a consultant.
Sure.
Before I focused on the organizations that I was primarily leading myself and working to make sure we did those things. And yes, there's a collective culture that you can create in a company when you are driven, and the leadership demonstrates what service looks like first inside, and then how you serve your constituent or the audience or the customer base that you are driven to provide a service for. And so, yes, I've done that internally. And now what I love to do is working with individuals who are, and nonprofits who are all working
Right.
to inspire the individuals that work with them to do more and to really do it from a level of heart service versus just a
Yeah.
work level or title service.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Can you share a story with us, though, about the time when you were preparing for a presentation or a leadership moment that actually changed your own perspective?
You know, um, I tell you, writing, serving as a superpower really became that moment for me. It was, I thought I knew everything I may have wanted to know about leadership when I was writing. Instead, I realized that, I was writing about people who had, quietly shaped my life through service, which was actually my parents, my mentors, my colleagues, and community leaders. And really, as I reflected on all of those experiences, I recognized that many of my greatest leadership lessons didn't really come from the boardrooms I was sitting in or, in the corporate offices. They came from me watching ordinary people who chose to consistently give through generosity, humility, and service.
Yeah.
Those are things that actually were this book, really writing it, has helped change me and shape me in different ways. And I'm grateful that I took the leap of trying to put these thoughts on paper.
Yeah. What is the one shift that you would immediately change how leaders show up for their teams? Wow.
Mm. I would say, leaders are all struggling with what do we do in this time? We are all managing and leading various generations right now.
Yeah.
And so, I would encourage leaders to replace really one question, not necessarily how can I help my team succeed necessarily. I'd like for them to say, how can I help, not necessarily saying things about like how their team can succeed at what the company wants, but how do you exactly make that team themselves succeed? Each individual person, like make it very personal. I think that simple shift of what can my team succeed and make happen for the company to what can I happen actually make happen for my team really is going to make the biggest difference. I think it changes the conversations you have with your team. I think it changes the priorities and how you show up as a leader.
Yeah.
It really changes, to me, one of the most important things, which is trust.
Yes.
Individuals that I've led have been more concerned about not my talent of helping us meet the bottom line or get to a certain goal. It's really been about how I've invested in them. And I think when leaders become genuinely invested in helping other people succeed, they often really discover that the organizational success flows very, very naturally. And
Yeah.
so I tell people leadership is not about being served, it's all about creating opportunities for others to thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we touched upon this a little bit before when we were talking about win-win, but we were talking about, I wanted to ask you why helping others often helps us too. And if you have
Mm.
one instance that you could say that time really stands out in my mind, the time that, it was that win-win and I felt really satisfied, proud, happy, and fulfilled.
There have been several. I had one instance where part of my work was actually in the nonprofit mortgage space. I did a lot of work across the United States where I worked with individuals who did not see homeownership as something that they could actually aspire to. And quite frankly, I came across someone who just in casual conversation had counted themselves out and did not believe that it's something they could do. And it wasn't necessarily that I was looking to gain a customer, but what I wanted to do is to instill hope again in someone and really walked alongside this individual through their journey and help them overcome a few obstacles. They're not necessarily my job description, but because I care to see someone believe again. And in that, just the resilience, my words of encouragement and how what I thought was just small moments of when I would talk to them along their journey or encourage them along their path made such a difference that it really helped me realize that our words matter so much. There's a
Yes.
chapter here when I talk about your words, and I did not realize at that time. I grew up with a decent amount of positive energy around me.
Yes.
My mother was a social worker, so her main thing was making sure she tried to develop healthy children to put out into the world.
Yeah.
And part of that was that I never thought of environments where people did not have positive statements and things flowing around them. And to become that person and see what that meant to someone else made the biggest difference. It was a woman who was in her 60s. She had counted out home ownership and watching her go through that journey and reaching her goal of getting her own set of keys to her very own home was such a big blessing to
I'll
me that it
bet.
has forever left a mark on me.
I will bet that well, I've got a couple of stories I'll tell you offline too, that I'd love to share with you.
Sure.
Um, the surprising connection between service and happiness. What is that surprising connection?
Oh my goodness. Services is the thing that keeps giving. I tell people when you serve and do for others, there's never a depletion of the joy and energy that comes from that. It's the one thing I think we do in life that multiplies, and so I think the feeling that we get that comes back internally in our heart, when your heart smiles, your whole body feels better. And
Yeah.
so the service that we do leaves
Yeah.
a genuinely good feeling behind for us. And really, that is helping us, whether we realize it or not.
Yes, ma'am. I would tend to agree. Um, can we talk about how anyone can create a ripple effect? I mean, some people think, when I frequently talk about, my four pillars, and the last one is, it's look good, feel good, be good, greater good, and that's
Mm,
giving back.
yes,
And people think it has to be these really broad stroke, and it has to be a lot of money and donations, and it really doesn't. And I always say as well, what you said starts with a smile. Could be a compliment. It could be you made an extra loaf of bread for somebody. The things, all the things. But the ripple effect that creates at times is one of the things I think is the most powerful, because
absolutely.
that win-win, when you're feeling good, you made them feel good, and then they probably maybe just want to make somebody else feel good. Talk about that a
Absolutely.
second. Your ripple effect. What have you noticed?
The ripple effects are amazing. And what you will find in life is that sometimes you get to see the outcomes of that. And I've had a couple of instances where I have worked and volunteered in certain environments and really went above and beyond. I was serving in Augusta, Georgia in one of my positions, and I took a volunteer role for my college alumni association. And I kind of took it upon myself to help support some of the younger students who had graduated from my college that were in their career journey in medical school along the way. It was years later when someone made a statement on stage when they were serving in a big leadership role, and they gave credit to my example way back when they were a little bit younger, as to why they chose to take on the heavy lift of leading, volunteering, and doing something else. We don't always get to see how our service to other people comes back. That was one of
Right,
the moments that I'm grateful God allowed me to see it. But
right.
I also realized that ripple effect just continues to go. And when we see those pebbles that go out, those ripples in the stream
Yeah,
keep flowing. And we may never be on the other side,
yeah,
wherever that ripple is
yeah,
made. But the good thing is that we know it's there. What I'll
yeah,
say, Clarissa, for today's society is that we sometimes, with the new tools that we have in social media and different things, we can often see a lot of that these days. And I think when people use their influence through social media channels and give an encouraging word or say something, a lot of times we get to see, the likes and the energy that comes from it, that other people start supporting and saying something positive. And I think in some little way, that's one of the reasons why I like, technology for that standpoint, because that little ripple effect can be digital now versus just what we
yeah.
think going out to the world.
Yes.
You can see it through some of our social media posts and things. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
happening whether we know it or not. And who knows how far it goes. I tell people, just throw the pebble.
Just throw the pebble. You got that right. So, is there anything about the book or your work that I haven't asked you that you would like everybody to know?
Well, really, I want people to understand what's behind the book. The heart of the message is a simple belief that leadership is not measured by the number of people you serve, or not by, the number of people who are stronger, more confident. I think it really comes from the fact that people are more capable. Their
Mhm.
lives have been changed by you. And really, that's why I believe serving is a superpower, because we never know just how much amazement can go out. The tagline on the book is, transforming lives through the power of giving and receiving. Because I want us to remember that when you're giving, you are also receiving. And so never misunderstand that.
Right. There's one last question that I normally ask my guests, and it's the following. You cannot say marriage and you cannot say children. You may have already answered this question, but we'll
Okay.
find out. What would you say that in your lifetime up until now has been your crowning moment?
For me, it is having um, not just my family, but people I've had the blessing and privilege to work alongside, who have given me credit for anything that they have achieved in their life. That means that my time
Yeah.
with them was not in vain. And I spent that time the way I believe God wanted me to with them.
Awesome. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, Detria. I'm kind of feeling like Margaret was sitting with us right now on this whole thing. I could
Oh,
kind of feel her there. I could feel her. Could you?
absolutely. Absolutely. along this
I
journey,
could
you need to
feel
know
Mama
that.
Margaret.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. She absolutely is present.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and for the work that you're doing for others. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
it is a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Be well.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the In the Limelight podcast, intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. You'll find my video interviews on YouTube and clarissaburt.com, and the audio version of the interviews you can get wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to connect with me on social, pretty much anywhere, and do stay well until we meet again in the Limelight.